Emotions can be defined as the feelings or sensations arising from our experiences, interactions, environment, and physiology. The book defines emotions as our experience and interpretation of internal sensations as they are shaped by physiology, perceptions, language, and social experiences. Emotional intelligence is characterized by one's ability to recognize feelings, to judge which feelings are appropriate in which situations, and to communicate those feelings effectively. Emotional intelligence has also been linked to well-being in people. People who have higher emotional intelligence are more likely than people with low emotional intelligence to create satisfying relationships, to be comfortable with themselves, to work effectively with others, and to have better overall health. Emotional intelligence consists of qualities such as being aware of your feelings, dealing with emotions without being overcome by them, not letting setbacks and disappointments derail you, channeling your feelings to assist you in achieving your goals, being able to understand how others feel without having them spell it out for you, listening to your feelings and those of others so that you can learn from them, recognizing social norms for expression of emotions, and having a strong yet realistic sense of optimism. But before we have a high emotional intelligence, we must first understand what emotions are. Understanding emotions is difficult because what we feel is often not a single emotion, but several mingled together. As previously stated, emotions are defined as our experience and interpretation of internal sensations as they are shaped by physiology, perceptions, language, and social experiences. All of these defining qualities influence our emotions. There are three which we will discuss in detail, however, that are the physiological influences, the perceptual influences, and the social influences on our emotions. The first influence that we will discuss is our physiological state on our emotions. Early theorists believed that we experience emotions based on the physiological changes that take place in our bodies due to external stimuli. This can be more accurately described in what is known as the organismic view of emotions. The organismic view of emotions, as shown here, states that we perceive a stimulus. We then respond physiologically to this stimulus, and then we feel the emotions triggered by our physiology. For example, you notice someone running at you with a weapon. Your adrenaline surges when you notice. Then you feel fear. Now let's see this in a video. JC notices someone approaching him with a knife. He feels a surge of adrenaline. He then feels fear. Our perceptions also play a huge factor in the emotions we attribute to different responses in our bodies. The perceptual view of emotions, also known as the appraisal theory, states that our subjective perceptions shape what external phenomena mean to us. This view comes from the reasoning that objects, events, and our physiological responses have no intrinsic meaning, however they gain meaning through what we attribute to them. The perceptual view is good, but it did not define the mechanism by which we interpret emotions. This is corrected in the cognitive labeling view of emotions, which states the language and symbols allow us to shape and label our physiological response to the event. According to this view, we experience an external stimuli. We then experience a physiological response to the stimuli. We label our physiological response, then we experience the emotion based on the label we ascribe to our response. This allows us to change our responses to stimuli based on our interpretation of our physiological response and thereby change the emotions we experience. Applied to the earlier example used for the organismic view of emotions, this scenario would look like this. Someone approaches you with a weapon. Your adrenaline surges as he approaches. You then label the surge as fear. You experience the emotion fear. Let's go back to JC again. He notices someone approaching him with a knife. He feels a surge of adrenaline. He attributes the surge of adrenaline to fear. He then feels fear. Just like our perceptions, our emotions are influenced by the culture and different social groups that we are in, which are called emotional communities. These communities teach us how to understand and express emotions. The interactive view of emotions proposes that social rules and understanding shape what people feel and how they do or do not express their feelings. According to this model, we observe framing rules, we observe feeling rules, and then we feel an emotion. We in turn take that emotion and do emotion work and then come out with a new emotion and feel that emotion. Then we choose to express this final emotion. This is very complicated presented this way, so let's talk about all the parts of the process individually, then link them back together. First, we observe framing rules, which are how we define the emotional meaning of a situation. For example, in Western cultures, funerals are supposed to be sad, whereas graduations are supposed to be happy. Second, we observe feeling rules. These tell us what we have a right to feel or what we are expected to feel in certain situations. These rules are sometimes explained in rights or duties, such as I ought to feel happy my friend got a job, or I shouldn't feel angry at my father. Some believe that these rules uphold social order, first through forming rules that uphold broad social values, such as Western cultures teaching people to take pride in their accomplishments, which reinforces the individualistic nature of the society. Secondly, it is believed that these rules uphold social order by allowing people to express negative emotions, particularly by those in power, directed towards people of lower status. These rules are taught in two different ways. First is deep acting, which involves truly learning and internalizing what should and should not be felt.
Good.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Zach, what's up?
Happy birthday, man.
Thanks,
I got you something.
Yeah? Aw, thanks, man.
Hope you like
This
it.
is really awesome. You know, I'll sleep with it every night.
Great.
Thanks.
The second way these rules are taught is through surface acting, which only involves controlling the outward expression of emotion rather than controlling the actual emotion itself.
Jason.
Hey, Zach, what's
Happy
up?
20th, man.
Thanks, man.
I got you something.
Oh, yeah?
I wanted you to have this.
Thanks.
Do you like it?
It's cool.
Both framing and feeling rules are already internalized based upon our society and culture. We then experience in a situation or event in order to feel an emotion. When we feel this emotion, we look back to these rules to see if it matches. Then we begin to do emotion work. Emotion work is an effort to generate what we think are appropriate feelings in particular situations. This only concerns our effort to fashion how we should feel, not to remove what we do feel. Sometimes we feel something we believe is wrong or inappropriate in specific situations. When there's a discrepancy between what we feel and what we think we should feel, it is commonly referred to as the pinch. So now that the processes are more clearly established, let's look at the interactive view of emotions again. We observe framing rules which tell us what to feel based on the situational meaning. We then observe feeling rules which tell us what we should and should not feel in situations. We then feel an emotion and begin to do emotion work to generate this emotion into what we believe it should be. We then arrive with another emotion, we believe it to be appropriate, and then we in turn express it. There are many different obstacles to communicating emotions effectively. Many of us repress feelings or express them inappropriately. We need to consider both why we may not express emotions and the ineffective ways that we do express emotions. Often we do not express the emotion we have. 4 common reasons are social expectations, self-protection, protecting others, as well as our respective social and professional roles. First, social expectations tell us what we should and should not express, so we choose to not express certain emotions based off of these expectations to those around us. Second is self-protection. We may not want to show or express feelings that will affect how others perceive or act towards us. We may restrain these feelings because of the chilling effect. This effect says that we will hide emotions from more powerful individuals because we fear punishment from them. Thirdly, we may not express emotions to protect others. We may hide how we feel to avoid hurting or upsetting others around us. Finally, we may not express our emotions because our position makes it inappropriate. People of power or high authority have to monitor how they are perceived and the emotions they choose to show. Next, we look at the ways we ineffectively express emotion. The first is speaking in generalities. When we say things like, "I feel bad," we do not give enough information for the listener to identify what exactly we are feeling and why we are feeling that way. Secondly, we often do not own our own feelings and rely on you versus I language. Finally, we often rely on counterfeit emotional language, which appears to express emotions but in fact does not describe what someone is feeling. Shouting, "Why can't you leave me alone?" may imply feeling, but does not tell what the speaker is feeling. So now we have identified ineffective ways to communicate emotions. Here are some basic guidelines for communicating emotions effectively. First, we must be able to identify our emotions. You have to be able to identify what you feel in order to effectively communicate it. This is difficult since we usually do not feel just one emotion at a time. After you have identified your emotions, you must then decide whether and how to express the emotions you feel. First, you have to decide if you wish to express the emotion you have. Then, once you have decided to express them, you need to decide to whom you wish to address them. These are crucial elements that will help the communicator to be most effective and appropriate in a given situation. Once we express our feelings, we have to own them. Take possession of your feelings when you choose to express them. Use more I language and less you language. Next, you need to monitor your self-talk. Self-talk is communication with yourself and usually occurs during emotion work. Self-talk can both help and hurt us, so we need to effectively manage it in order to solve problems that are present in communication. Once we realize the effect our self-talk has on how we think and how what we think about our feelings greatly affects them, we can adopt a rational emotive approach to feelings. This approach uses rational thinking and self-talk to challenge our debilitating thoughts about emotion that can undermine healthy self-concepts and relationships. This can be easily described in 4 steps. Step 1. You need to monitor your emotional reactions to things that distress you. Step 2. Identify the similarities between the events and situations to which you have unpleasant responses. Step 3. Listen to your self-talk and find what is irrational and false in your thinking. Step 4. Use self-talk to disregard and dispute the irrational and false thinking that you did find. Once you have dealt with your own side of things, you must learn to respond sensitively when others communicate emotions. You want to become skilled in listening and responding to others when they share their feelings with you. We can easily overlook this portion, and our first tendency is to respond with general statements like, "Time heals all wounds," which tells the other person they are not allowed to feel what they feel, even though the statement was meant to provide reassurance to the person. Another mistake is to try to solve the problem to make the feelings go away. When others communicate emotions to you, show that you are willing to listen and discuss the emotional topics with them, and listen to what they have to say. Emotions and feelings are very complex, compounded by the fact that we rarely experience single emotions. But we can still competently communicate our emotions to others by understanding what we are doing wrong and focusing on what to do in order to communicate emotions competently.
Well, it's midnight, damn right, we're wound up too tight. I got a fist full of whiskey, the bottle just bit me. Oh, that shit makes me batshit crazy. We got